This is your writer, Anthony L. Kelly, right here. Check it out. These are my books. Mac, Jaja, book, Sunshine. And this is my first book published, Saving Miss Caroline. And this is my latest, El Manic. Go check this book out, man. This is a nod at hip-hop on its 50th anniversary. This is a nod to one of the illest MCs to ever do it, Nasir Jones. This is me shedding the light on mental illness. I'll leave all the links in the description box. Salute to everybody who's ever supported me, man. Y'all go support your boy, Anthony L. Kelly. Check till next time.
Thank you for that.
Right. So back in February, I seen one of your videos. I didn't get a chance to watch it. But the title was Dr. Umar does not believe blacks are ready for reparations. Did he actually say that? And what's your thoughts on that? I didn't hear him say that, but if he did, what's your thoughts on that?
My issue actually regarding Dr. Umar was he did a podcast. And first of all, I believe in some of his work. I want to be clear about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had the privilege of having a couple of interviews with him. One of them kind of went awry at the end, but he, Lord have mercy, just Lord. But I have to say he did kind of sort of indirectly try to reconcile that through a video and brought up my name in it saying, so I felt like that he was making a conciliatory effort to clear that up. So I want to say that, okay? With that being said, he did a podcast where they were talking about reparations, and he was basically saying that we're so sick, and then in terms of mentally sick, to really know what to do with reparations. He was also talking about my understanding, the devaluating of the amounts that we would get of the US dollar or something to that effect, if I remember correctly. And then I felt that people were making all of these stipulations and disclaimers and hoops that Black folks have to jump through in order to get it. That was the issue that I had. And I felt that his talking points are very dangerous because I felt that the other side would use that argument and someone as high profile as he to argue against us getting reparations. And that's exactly what we saw Dr. Phil use recently, didn't we?
Yeah. Yep. You're right.
That was my issue, was to allow someone with such a big megaphone to sit there. And this goes to the slave mentality. What's the slave mentality? That Black folks got to work real hard for anything we get. We already created America. We got to do this. We got to do that. We ain't ready for this yet. And if we give Black folks, that's what he was basically saying, the reparations down, we're going to turn around and put it right back into the white communities. Let me tell you something. And this was my issue. There are no stipulations for a debt that you owe. I said no stipulations. Can you imagine, because this is a legal issue, going into court, you win a judgment, and somebody wants to know that when you were in 9th grade, did you ever smoke a blunt? They want to know, have you ever ran a red light or had a traffic thing? They want to know, has your account ever been overdrawn before they decide to give you? If we got approximately $365,000 each, and that's one of the numbers I heard, and I decided to go to the dollar store and get me 365,000 pairs of flip-flops.
That's on you.
What I do, of course, I advocate that we come together so that we can be collective, like Dr. Clark teaches us, so that we can maximize our economic position.
Yeah.
But don't get that twisted with the debt that's owed and you telling other Black folks what they have to do with their money and providing all of these barriers as to why they can continue to delay us getting it. I said there are no stipulations for a debt owed. That is the issue that I had with what he said.
I agree.
Fire.
Yeah.
Brought up legendary scholar Dr. Claude Anderson. And right now I want to transition into Howard University. Howard University, world-renowned HBCU. I got recruited there to go to play football there some time ago. Didn't work out, but love the university out in Georgia Avenue, Washington, D.C.
Wow.
They had President Joe Biden as a keynote speaker recently, and a lot of people took issue with that because you got Dr. Claude Anderson, a man that could help exponentially some of them students, and not only the students at the university, and happens to live right around the corner from what I hear. Talk about your issue with Howard University having President Joe Biden as opposed to turning their head on somebody like a Dr. Claude Anderson.
The issue I have, And someone commented this, and I know there are other similar sentiments. So that's the only reason why I'm addressing this particular issue as to, well, they needed to be smart about raising money. So it was smart business-wise for them to bring Joe Biden in. I told this slowness of it all individual who said that it's not just about quote unquote business and them bringing him in, right? It was about the fact that before you decided to bring him in to speak to our generation, a well-known, bona fide, certified, the mastermind behind the most recent and the most recent piece of legislation that had everything to do with the undoing of Black folks, the true new Jim Crow, the architect of that.
Mm.
You brought him in to speak into the lives of our new leaders of the new world. And watch this. For the longest time, I had the privilege of doing a couple of interviews with Dr. Claude Anderson's family over the past several months. We were supposed to do a third one. We had to wait because we're having a little bit of a health issue, so that last one was delayed. He specifically talked about how these institutions, and particularly he called them out white folks, was not allowing his books and his information into the schools, right? Mm. That's the problem that I had. And then, as Dr. Boyce, I gotta say this, mentioned in one of his tweets, he's within proximity to Howard University, and they don't even bring him in. So it's not just that they had, you understand, Joe Biden there. It's the fact that you gave our leaders the middle finger and refused to allow their voices, their presence, their surrogates, and their books. You understand what I'm talking about? Inside of these institutions. It is a shame. That is disgusting. And then I talked about this in a pre-record, so I'm on another platform on African Diaspora News Channel. Shout out to my brother Bill Scott. I hope that's okay that I shouted him out. Ma'am. He's been good to me over the years. That'll be up soon. I brought this up on one of my broadcasts coming out with him. Y'all know they gave him an honorary doctorate degree, and the president of Howard said, and I'm quoting, in part, one of the reasons they gave it to him was for his analytical intellect. God, Lord. Wow. They talked about his popularity with both sides. These are things that your Black university leaders said when they granted this man an honorary doctorate degree too, adding further insult to injury to us. This is disgusting. This is slave thinking, slave behavior. And I don't know if you all have read any of the 5 books of Dr. Clark, but one of the things he brings up in his books, there's a section that's called inappropriate behavior. Mm-hmm. You see how we normalize these kinds of things? Yeah. We normalize rewarding our open enemy, just like, and I'm gonna say this and I'll stop. Remember when Obama was in office? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obama gave George Bush one of the highest civilian awards. Remember, he gave his own vice president, who was what? Jim Crow Joe Biden, one of the awards. And then he and Michelle was shucking and jiving with George Bush too, who's responsible for untold hundreds of thousands of innocent lives being murdered and killed here in America and around the world. They normalize that relationship. And the reason why some people are going to be mad at me that I give Michelle Obama this everlasting word. And I was off, I love how she looked. I was excited to see this dark melanin woman. I was inspired by her muscles. That's why I said, girl, let me get me some abs. I mean, some guns. I was so happy, but I knew from the beginning it was going to be a disaster. I was going to use her husband as a white supremacist. But I'm saying optically, it was exciting. When Michelle Obama and them, and when Obama and Michelle, I use them interchangeably, got in the office, they were willing to give the man who married them, the man who baptized their children, the middle finger. They were willing to disassociate themselves and denounce Minister Farrakhan for a position of power. Watch this. And then they refused to have any dealings with him while they were in the White House. And based on some of his reports, he was privately sending them letters of reconciliation just undercover secretly, and they were still refusing to give him any substantive response. Watch this. When they left the White House, Michelle Obama did her first book, Becoming. She broke all kind of global records. Watch this. But guess what she did in that book that pissed me off? Mm. She basically said that Dr. Jeremiah Wright was a cranky old Black man that had a problem with white supremacy. while she's going around the country high-fiving and bragging about George W. Bush.
Wow.
You understand, y'all? I gotta calm down. I ain't on the Vicki show. Y'all gotta calm me down. I can't
do your work.
About to get the gavel. Do you understand why that ticks? We have normalized her and said this is our forever first lady. How y'all okay with that? That she talks about publicly, pull it up. The things that she has in common with George W. Bush's family, the interviews that he gives her daughter, their daughter, that's on, I forget that morning, one of the major networks. She's got her little gig that she does on one of the major morning shows and stuff. The wonderful relationship that she has with him. But even after she left the White House, I keep emphasizing after because folks love to justify why they did it. But they had to do it for political reasons. They had to do this. Okay, after she left, why did she do that? So that white women would buy her books. My dog, and they had to have something juicy, you understand, in there that had some racial incendiary statements in order to draw in a whole bunch of her white Karens to buy her book, and it worked. So this is what disgusts me about individuals that do stuff like that and normalize these types of relationships. So that's, I know I kind of went off on that, but anyway.
Nah, we appreciate you. Fire.
Yeah, definitely. Great interview. So far, what do you see the next? We talked about Biden and all these different people. We didn't talk about Trump. What do you see in the next play ban for the next election? You think Biden's going to win? Do you think they're going to pull somebody up, that we don't know about to try to, once again, trick us again? What's your thoughts on the next election?
My thoughts on the next election is, what are we going to do to continue to upset the system? Remember, they were so concerned that Biden was going to lose. That was one of the major driving forces of them bringing Kamala to trick us with her ethnicity. She go in and out on, being Indian and whatever. So that was a trick, right? And remember, all the black voices was telling Joe Biden, if y'all don't get her, the world gonna end. You're gonna lose all your black supporters. Remember, all the sorority folks came out and they did all that, right? She's done absolutely nothing. She laughs at everything and she's being laughed at. Right? That's her destiny. That's all she's accomplished in office, right? And this was a whole setup. Then they did all these different things to prop him up. I'm trying to remember. It was the reason why I brought her up in particular for this particular thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, we were right about that. We were saying that this was going to be a disaster. That's exactly what they're saying, because her numbers are one of the lowest numbers as vice president. We, the independent black media, right? We told them there was going to be a problem. We told y'all she was going to be a problem. Her numbers are low, so they're concerned about that. They was wondering if he's going to throw her off the ticket when he runs again. So they're trying to fix everything. That's why they sent her funny looking self over to Africa recently. She made a total fool of herself. And practically every one of the 54 nations on the continent dogged for coming over there with an LGBTQ agenda. Howling about China, what China's doing. China is offering to be a rose, and whether we agree with what they're doing or not, and do economic work with them, we sit up there talking about LGBTQ and tell them we're going to sanction them because their laws are too tough against that community, allegedly. So they did all this stuff, right? Then they tried to make a distinction and tell us why Joe Biden was so much better than Trump. He's not as bad of a white supremacist, right? It's Trump. I feel that we caused so much drama, we scared them so much because of our underground work that we're doing as a Black grassroots, that they pulled out all the stops to try to appease it. Look what they're doing. Remember, what was the main thing that the headlines were saying? They told those that told the truth, like NPR and a few others, why Joe Biden went to Howard in the first place. For voting pitch, remember? That was what that was for. What's happening? They're showing already now the waning numbers, the waning enthusiasm amongst Black voters, right? They're starting now. Mm-hmm. I believe it doesn't matter for us, because they try to make us think that it mattered whether or not Trump was going to be in office and our destiny, right? We it's going to be over for us. It doesn't matter for us. Mm-hmm. Whichever way, I think our focus needs to be an all or nothing strategy. Reparations are nothing at all. And we need to continue to do exactly what we've been doing. The broadcast we've been doing like this, the engagement that we're seeing with Black folks that are engaging their city council persons that's showing up to real-time things. I did a broadcast a little bit ago today. Chicago residents actually sued the city for the illegal migrants that they're bringing. Black folks are going legal. We're being unwavering. I think that's the focus that we need to stick to. Hold the line.